on the News Channel 5 network. This is OpenLine.
Hello everyone, welcome to OpenLine. Important show tonight, interesting show tonight. We're talking about discrimination in the workplace. The Trump administration has proposed rolling back safeguards designed to prevent discrimination by employers. This has to do with federal contractors who fire and hire based on religious beliefs. What impact would that have for a whole host of people, specifically gay, lesbian, the LGBTQ community? Happy to have with us Chris Sanders with the Tennessee Equality Project. Chris, thank you for coming back on.
Glad to do it, Ben.
Thank you for being here. Tennessee Equality Project, what is that? Explain that.
We're a statewide organization that, among other things, lobbies the Tennessee General Assembly on LGBTQ issues, but we also work with local governments and other advocates just to increase acceptance of LGBTQ people in Tennessee.
So what is being proposed by the Trump administration? What are we talking about here?
This is a bit of a step back, quite a bit of a step back from a rule change that President Obama put in place in 2014 that said if you're a federal contractor, in other words, if you're getting contract dollars from the federal government, you're a private entity, you cannot discriminate against your employees based on sexual orientation and gender identity against the LGBTQ community. What the current administration is attempting to do is pull it back and say there could be religious exemptions. So they are giving employers a way out of the Obama-era executive order.
They are saying someone could say it's against my religious beliefs for someone to be gay. As a result, I can fire that person or I cannot hire that person.
Right, or not promote, or I can discipline, or whatever it is, yes.
This has to do with federal contractors.
Right.
So it doesn't mean a shop that's out there that doesn't, they take federal money.
That's right.
But that's still a huge section of our population.
It is. Some estimates that I've read say that 1 in 4 people who are employed by a contractor that receives federal dollars.
And so often local governments follow what the state government does. And we had a case right here in Nashville not that long ago, right?
Well, it was in 2011. To me, that's not a long time ago, but some of our viewers, it may be. I don't know.
I'll agree. 2011 is not that long ago. But that case, well, all right, tell us about that case.
Sure. Belmont University's soccer coach, it was revealed that she was in a relationship with a woman, and they were about to have a baby. And that employment relation unraveled, and as a result, the Metro Council responded with some ordinances that looked at ways to say that contractors with the city have to have protections based on sexual orientation and gender identity in their non-discrimination policies, or they have to agree to Metro's policy. The state came in the same year in 2011 and said, no, we're not going to allow you to do that, Nashville, and in fact, no city or county can exceed the state in its non-discrimination standards applied to the private sector.
So the state kind of big-footed the city on that.
Exactly
said,
right.
You can't do that.
Exactly.
And so some people might say, well, you know, how big of an impact will this really have? What is your concern? I mean, do you think a federal rollback of these protections will have a big impact or not?
I do. As someone who lives in Tennessee and works extensively with our community around the state, we rely on these kinds of federal protections because we're not getting them from the state of Tennessee. Tennessee has shown no willingness to protect LGBTQ people in employment. So for us, these contractor protections at the federal level are incredibly important because it's one of the few kinds of security blankets we have in this very tough political situation.
And President Trump had said when he was running that he wasn't going to do this, that he was going to protect the rights of all Americans, including the LGBTQ community. And so he has said he wasn't going to do that. Now this is happening. What do you think is behind this?
Well, of course, I don't speak for the president and have no desire to, but I would say that his response would be he's not rescinding the rule, he's qualifying it. But our view is that he is gutting the rule by doing this, because this amounts to a free pass. Now, what's motivating this? I think it is, and again, I don't speak for the vice president either, but I think it's the circle of advisors that the vice president has brought in, because he comes more from the religious right side of the Republican Party, and I believe that this is coming from those elements. I don't think it is an obsession of the president himself. But the president may see that it's useful to empower that part of the party and keep it engaged. So that's my hypothesis of what's happening.
Did we see big problems? So this was put into effect by Obama back in 2014. I guess we did see in 2011 here in Nashville a real life situation potentially where this came into play. Were we seeing problems prior to the Obama? I guess, were you seeing a lot of problems? And again, I mean, why did, I guess Obama put it in place in 2014. Did you feel like it was badly needed then?
Oh, absolutely. Because we didn't have the protections in law, one, and because, you know, I've been doing this work in some capacity, volunteer and professional, since, you know, around 2000. And every month, sometimes every week, I hear stories or get calls from someone who has been let go, not hired, or treated quite badly at work because of sexual orientation or gender identity, being gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. So I know that it's a reality in Tennessee. That's the state that I focus on. I can only imagine that in many other states, particularly in the South and Midwest, that it's an issue.
So the Department of Labor has said it's this new policy, this new revised rule will help not hurt civil rights protections, and they're talking about civil rights for those who are considered religious employers. And they go on to say, as people of faith with deeply held religious beliefs, when they're making decisions on whether to participate in federal contracting, they deserve a clear understanding of their obligations and protections under the law. They're coming at it from the point of view of someone with a deeply held religious conviction. Right. And this goes against that religious belief, and they should have the right to hire and promote based on that. I guess, what do you say to that?
It's curious, you know, I always bring the Bible when I come on your program because we get a lot of callers who are interested in religion, and there is no letter of St. Paul to the HR directors. There's no passage in the Bible that talks about punishing people you disagree with by denying them a job, or you know, firing them, or any of that. This is a made-up religious tenet. One may, at a theoretical level, disagree with, whatever that means, someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. But one would be hard-pressed to find that the remedy is to deny someone a job. Because what that does, when you give someone the power to deny a job based upon a particular trait, you give that power the power to starve the person, unhouse the person, and on and on and on. Deny them health insurance in this country, since so much health insurance is tied to one's employment. So this is, in my view, the very antithesis of religion, not to mention the fact that it has no warrant in traditional religion that I can find.
Because what they might say is that it's a choice, and that's you obviously don't feel that way at all.
No, I don't think it is, but even if it were, again, where in religious text does it say that we punish sexual orientation and gender identity with denial of a job? How is that an article of faith? How did that rise to an article of faith? And that's what's curious. I don't believe it. I think it's disingenuous.
And what have you seen? You are concerned that this will have real world impact. What have you seen in the last few years? There have been other things that have been rolled back, right? When it comes to, I think, under the Affordable Care Act and some other things. What have you seen in the last few years?
Constant attacks on transgender people who are serving in the military. Just attempt after attempt after attempt to deny them the ability to serve. I've read some estimates that as many high percentage as 20% of all trans people have been veterans. This is a group who is giving and giving to our country, and these attacks are taking place. There is a rise in hate violence against our community, against many communities right now, that is empowered by divisive political rhetoric. So I truly believe there are people who, if they're empowered to fire us or not hire us in the workplace, they will take advantage of that power. The law is our protection. These executive orders are our protection, and they are desperately needed.
I like that you always bring the Bible. Where do you think we're headed? And I ask a lot of guests this, but there is such divisiveness now.
Sure.
And anytime there are battles for rights, there are battles. And it's interesting. So we've gone one way, now we're coming back another way. I guess as we went, you know, obviously the Obama rule upset a huge portion of people. Now we're going back the other way, which is going to upset a huge portion of people. Where do you think we go? Where will we be in 5, 10 years?
It's hard to say. The polling right now, as of March of this year, based on one PRRI survey, says that a majority of Americans in every state support these employment protections for LGBTQ people. That said, many of those same Americans are also supporting the political leaders who are attempting to dismantle them. There's not necessarily hypocrisy or a contradiction in that. It could be that they are supporting those leaders for a variety of other reasons. But those political leaders are using that their political support to dismantle other things that the voters would never go along with if they were single-issue ballot measures, for example. So it's hard to say where we're going as a country. One thing that I'm seeing more and more is new people are getting involved in elections, in political advocacy that I think never thought about getting involved before 2016. And that is what may save our political system. And I don't speak about that from one side or the other. I just am seeing a lot of new people get involved.
And I'm interested in your answers. So often people will say, well, I'm confident that we're heading in the right direction, and they can have a point of view about what the right direction is, but you feel like we are maybe at a crossroads. It could go either way.
Oh, I definitely do. I'm not someone who thinks there's a preordained end, or there is some inherent track in history that will grind toward progress in every case. That's practically a replacement religion if you have a faith like that, which is fine if you do. I don't happen to view things that way. I think history is what we make it, all of us together. And I think what we can say certainly is all kinds of new people are getting involved and contributing to the recipe. I don't know what the cake is going to look like at the end, but I'm excited to see so many new people involved. That gives me some hope, but again, I do not have a definite faith that things will completely turn out well.
So that kind of sets the table for our discussion. We're talking about discrimination in the workplace, the rolling back of these protections that were put into place back in 2014. What do you think? I know there are a couple people on the phones already. Phil, Tony, hang on. We'll get to your call. If you want to call in, there's the number, 615-737-PLUS, 615-737-7587. We'll take a break. Be back right after this.